Okay, here is the artwork that I use. I call it the ugly painting. I call it the ugly painting because I would never hang this up in my house, but maybe you would. It's in an easel right now, so if it was hanging on a wall, it'd be a little clearer. It's gone through the war. It's gone through floods in my house and whatever. So let's do the process here. What do you notice? And someone raises their hand, and they might say, I see two girls, or they might say, I see two dwarfs, or I might see two grown-ups, or I might see blah, 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 blah. There's no wrong answer. And you as facilitator have to make sure that you accept and validate every answer. So you nod, I see two little girls. Okay, yeah. And you pause, and you let that sink in the discussion. And the next thing is, well, what makes you say that? And the person will probably reply, well, they look young and they're wearing dresses. Oh, so there you go. You can dig in a little bit more. So do we know that only girls wear dresses? And it becomes that conversation. Well, in some countries, the men wear dresses. Yeah, So you think that these girls might be wearing dresses? Yeah, could be. So you leave it open to the possibilities. So then the next question, and you don't elaborate on what they're doing or who they are. It's just now that we've identified, I see two girls. And something else comes along the way to change that, fine. You are steering a discussion. They're wearing dresses. Okay, so, So let's notice the dresses. What do you notice about the dresses? Now this could have gone about what do you notice about the girls, but we're going to go with the dresses because that was brought up. Oh, they look fancy. Well, what makes you say that? Here's your follow-up. Well, they look like they're velvet. Oh, what does velvet look like? Can anybody describe what velvet looks like? So now you're using questions to flesh out why this might be a fancy dress, why it might be velvet, and what's special about these dresses. Do you ever wear a dress like this? Do you know anybody who ever wore a dress like this? Do you have a dress like this? Clothing is a really big thing in artwork that we can have great discussions with. When did you ever wear a dress like this? Or someone at holiday time? Oh, is that when a time we might wear velvet? And you can talk about fabrics. So we're digging in here. And would you wear this to school? So now you, or work if it's a grown-up group, now you're having them reference to their own lives. And so now we've discussed the dresses. Let's go back to these girls. We're saying they're girls, so they're not grown-ups. Well, what makes you say that this might be a young girl? I know when I've asked this before, all different ages, kids will say, well, that might be a boy because the person has short hair. Oh, really short hair, like a boy. So now you have an opportunity to talk about that. Oh, do hairdos tell us if people have a certain gender? And now you're getting into gender discussion, which is always very, very open-ended, especially in this day and age. And be aware of that, be sensitive to that. And you might find as kids are coming up with their pre-knowledge of what might have been discussed at home or what might be in their classroom, in their world, things can be varied. You know, maybe the gender blending might be part of this discussion. You don't know. So you'd be open and embracing to what comes up. And that they look like they have young faces usually comes out. And that they have young bodies. Well, what does that mean? What makes you say that? And that adds more to the discussion. We have about the dresses. We have about that they're young. We have jewelry on them. Do little people wear jewelry? Maybe. So that's part of the discussion too. And this person that we're assuming as a group, and we're acknowledging that this might be a little girl. She has an earring on. So you can talk about, how old do you think this person is? And now from the knowledge base, they're looking at the height of these girls. They're looking at the body as far as the size of the head compared to the arms and the torso. So there's a lot that comes out of the ugly paintings conversation here. And what do you notice next? Well, they're holding flowers, and there's a lot that goes into this, and it can go on and on. They have little flowers in their hands. Who might be the older sister? What makes you say that? Well, she's taller. So the ugly painting has a lot here to lend as far as what this artist, which I think is colonial time, I don't know offhand here the contextual information, but this is a great opportunity. Even though I call it the ugly painting, it can talk about culture, clothing, gender, celebrations of different holidays, different people, different belief systems, haircuts, hairdos, jewelry, and it always goes back to the child or the adult, the student's knowledge base. And if it's different from theirs, it's the same. What do they bring to the discussion, and what are they learning new about it? So at the end, if you did have the contextual information, you could share it with them. But for aesthetic education and for what we're doing, it doesn't matter at this point. We can just say it's an old painting. It depends on your purpose. Now, if it's a painting that is very important, that the artist was trying to communicate something, you would go into what the artist was trying to convey with that contextual historic information that you would get off the internet or from a book. All right, so we'll move on. I want to spin off on that conversation about the clothing and culture. I had the opportunity to go to Florence, Italy with a group of teenagers, an arts group, and go to the museums and go through the streets and look at the graffiti. And it was a great opportunity to take these teenagers age 13 to 18 and stop them in their tracks in these great, great museums, because they were zooming through. They didn't know how to look, and that's why this is such important work here. I stopped them in front of, I think it was Botticelli with Venus, and in that room there were some paintings of these very feminine, idyllic, of that time period, feminine figures from Italy with their veils and their clothing and their sandals. And I grabbed the group and I said, "Hey, check out their shoes." And they all stopped. I said, "Oh my gosh, look at their sandals with the jewels and stuff." And all of a sudden, everybody started talking about, wow, did they have those kind of shoes back then? And, and here it's hundreds of years ago. And I found an opening to grab these teenagers to talk about shoes and clothing, and do we wear that? And this is the time period, and wow, so again, we are referencing to the students' knowledge base, their pre-thoughts of what things should be or not, and having them think very diversely. So I wanted to bring that into light about how we are opening up their minds to connect it to their information, their life.